Hi, I'm Roy from Roy's Garage. Today I'm going to be working on a 2010 Toyota Tacoma Pre-Runner 4.0 liter automatic two-wheel drive. I'm going to show you how to replace the front pads and the front rotors. These are the tools I'm going to be using today to do this job. A rubber mallet, ball peen hammer, 4-pound sledgehammer, a large water pump plier, small water pump plier, 14mm wrench, 10mm wrench, it's a 10mm tubing wrench, long nose plier, air gun, Phoenix brake flusher, anti-seize, ceramic grease, a bottle of water with a hole in it, hood prop, penetrating oil, and my suction ball. These are the parts I'm going to be using today to do this job. Front brake pads, front rotors, .3 brake fluid. Okay, so first we're going to be removing this rubber cap. I'm going to be loosening the bleeder screw. Now I'm going to be removing the steel brake tubing that goes to the caliper, because we're going to have to remove this whole caliper. This is slightly different from the others. This is they call it a fixed caliper. It doesn't slide. Remove this mount. So I'm going to be plugging up this brake tubing. I just cut a piece of vacuum hose and stuck a bolt on the end. Okay, first I'm going to be removing these locks or these little clips. Okay, so I'm going to be removing these pins. Removing this spring. And then removing this pin. Then we'll be removing these pads. Might have to squeeze it in a little. So we'll be removing this caliper. There's 2 bolts. We're going to remove the brake rotor. The rotor is stuck onto the hub. So I'm going to be shooting some penetrating oil, and then I'm going to get my 4-pound sledgehammer. I'm going to be pounding the rotor to get it off. Then with my 4-pound sledgehammer, I'm going to be pounding the rotor. Don't worry about making gouges in the rotor because we're going to be replacing it. Okay, on this caliper, this is a 4-piston caliper. So I'm going to be squeezing in each piston with my water pump plier. Okay, I'm going to be putting on this new rotor. If you notice, this has a black coating on it. Leave it alone. Don't take it off. Just shoot it down with some brake clean. And just wipe it down. Just make sure there's no oil on the rotor. So when you start to road test the vehicle, you're gonna hear a grinding sound. What's happening is all of this coating is coming off. It only takes a few miles before the grinding noise stops. Once it stops, all this coating came off and then you're good to go. So before we put the rotor on, I'm gonna put some anti-seize around the hub. That way the next time when you take it off, it's not gonna get stuck. And just get just one wheel nut and just put it on. It's just so this rotor doesn't wobble. Okay, we're gonna be putting this caliper on, but before we put it on, I'm gonna get my ceramic grease and I'm gonna be greasing up the caliper. This is where the pad rides. So grease it up and then put a little bit grease on the piston. All you need is a little. So now we're going to put the caliper on. So I'm going to tighten up the caliper bolts. Now we're going to put the brake line on. Put this retainer on. Tightening up the brake line. So this is the difference between the old brake pad and the new brake pad, the thickness. Okay, so we'll be putting on the brake pad. So this has a wear indicator. We're going to put it on the inside. So on this wear indicator, they called it the leading edge. Your rotor is turning counterclockwise, so you got to put this on the leading edge. If the pad that you have, this wear indicator is on this side, then this pad has to go on to the passenger front. So anyway, so we're going to be putting on some ceramic grease, a little grease back here, just a little. You don't need too much. How about there? Now we're going to slide it in. This one doesn't have a wear indicator, so we can put it on the outside. So just put a little grease and slide it in. So now we're going to be putting on these pins. So just lubricate the pin a little. This is where it's going to contact the caliper. Just slide it in. In the other pin, put a little lube. So I'm going to be putting the pin in. Now we'll be putting in the spring. We'll be hooking this guy on the pad. These are the pins I'm going to be putting in. Make sure the hole is straight up. If it's not, just turn it with a plier and stick it in and slip it on. Same as the one on the bottom. So I'm going to be opening up this cover. Just put it on like that. Make sure you got enough fluid in your master because we're going to be gravity bleeding this first. If you don't have enough fluid, make sure you fill it up with some fluid. You don't want this master to run out of fluid. So I'm going to be opening up the bleeder screw. Just open it up. And then I'm going to let gravity bleed the system and try to get all the air out of this caliper. Now you see the fluid coming out. So just tap the caliper in case there's any air inside. That way the air can go to the top and come out. Okay, so now I'm going to tighten it up. So I'm going to be removing the old fluid from the brake master, but before I stick my suction ball in, we're going to have to remove the screen. Now I'm going to be sucking out the brake fluid. Suck it as much as you can. So now I'm going to be flushing out this brake caliper with my Phoenix brake flusher. I'm going to be pumping fresh brake fluid from the caliper up to the master. So I'll be opening up the bleeder screw, connecting my Phoenix brake flusher. Now I'm going to be pumping fresh fluid. So we're going to be pumping about half a bottle per wheel. So I'm going to be sucking out the brake fluid again. Okay, so I'm going to be filling up my brake reservoir with fresh fluid. Don't forget to put the screen in. Put the cover on. Now we're going to bleed the brakes. Okay, so I'm going to be starting it up. I'm going to be pumping my brake pedal no more than halfway until I feel pressure. That feels good. So now with my hood prop, I'm going to pressurize the brake system. So one side goes against the brake pedal while the other side goes against the seat. So I'm going to be opening up the bleeder screw. Make sure there's no air in here. But that looks good. So tighten it up. Shoot some water on it. Get that connection. flowing it down with air. Now I'm going to pressurize the system one more time. So pressurize the system about 15-20 seconds. Now check for leaks. So we actually loosen this guy and then we loosen this guy. So this is where we're going to be checking for leaks. So they both look dry. They're all good to go. So that's how you replace front pads and front rotors. If you have any questions, comment below. Don't forget to subscribe. Give me a thumbs up. And I see you in the next video. Aloha.